you think about the economical side of things within a space where you're also being ministry or missions oriented?
I think it's a good question, which I don't have an entire answer for, which is why team is so valuable. And I just want to say that every decision that we've ever made has always been in the context of community, led by the Spirit in the context of community, confirmed by the people around us, not in isolation. And then I just want to remind people how fantastic Fred is, because he's part of our team, and he, in many ways, and Donnie actually becoming part of the team as well, but teaching us, because actually that frame of like that businessy, like finance, money point is like still something that the Lord is developing in me and teaching us. But in all honesty, it was the simple principle of stewardship. You know, like how we steward things and how we run our business financially, as well as that. Actually, that's part of our value system, is that we do it with integrity, honesty, that we're still giving, that we're able to pay our customers. But it really was something that Fred has been teaching us, actually, how to do it. You know, like just from a very practical, like systems point of view. But every decision that we ever made in the past, and actually still make, regarding finances and how we pay for things, is born from a space of prayer. And that is, and that doesn't mean that we throw business principles out of the water. It just means that we want to see kingdom principles in business. And that, I think what we've realized is that becomes a testimony for others who are in business. Right. You know, like, and I think it is anyway, but it's an answer to another question. Yeah. So we're still learning, and it is just the basic principles of stewardship, like using what we have. We always did that. We never using what we have and growing. Actually, one of our values is to start small and to grow, to start small and grow tall, or to do not despise the day of small beginnings. And that, whether that is that goes from finances into every part of who we are. So yeah.
But I guess you come in and there's a shift that needs to be taken, and there's coffee that needs to be roasted, you know. But there's a big part of everything that you're doing is work related. Is there a tension sometimes between work life, spiritual life? How do you let those two work together?
That's a good question. I think that is I think it's a little bit in line of that same question that the Lord asked me when I was standing on the mountaintop in Peru. I think it's been a journey over a number of years of the Lord really revealing I want to say it like this because it's the only words that I have for it, but a dualistic mindset. That thing of there being something as sacred and something as secular, which I read the article that you sent me, but actually before that realized that we inherited that from our Western mindset and the Greek way of thinking. And that is not a biblical way of thinking. And actually I didn't discover that from reading an article. I discovered it from reading scripture and acknowledging that many of the key people in scripture were either they were businessmen or they were just in workspaces. Let me say it like that. Yep. Actually then over time realizing that if I can't, I think that was the question that I was always asking, like, if this can't translate into or let me say it in global language. I was coming back from a Luke 10 from the Transkei, and it was the first time that I'd ever had to trust the Lord for food, you know, like, and I remember walking down the street, like, I was so surprised. It was at the circle there by the entrance of Jeffreys Bay, and I was so overwhelmed by the fact that God got us into Jeffreys Bay from the Eastern Cape, and we had no money. Do you know, like that? It sounds really silly, but I remember a cog like almost clicking on my inside, realizing if faith cannot translate into the absolute everything that I do, then I might as well follow another. Like, then I'm just following religion, you know, a religion. And that shift in me, which was in that space of missions, it translated into me living a life like this, running a business, serving, doing, washing dishes. And so I think that wrestle is constant. It's not like, because you're just like, I'm washing the dishes at the back there thinking, how is this having any spiritual significance? Because actually my heart is like, I love evangelism. So it's like, and actually that's what I realized in the cafe, this is now a side note, but in the cafe, it's like a front door to the community. What we realized it became, and what the Lord created to be, was like a front door in the community. And what I was doing in walking in the streets and door to door, I mean, even with you, connecting intentionally with people, finding a very closed door to conversation, I found an open door because of a cup of coffee, you know, and that was, so that helped that, it helped that, like, there's not, I'm going on outreach now, I must share the gospel. Oh, actually, I'm in this space and I get to share the gospel here as well. And another helpful way of thinking of it was having, I don't know if you know, but the Hebrew word for work, worship, and serve in the Old Testament, avodah, is the same. It's all the same.
Just say it again.
Avodah.
Okay.
It's the same word. So when God speaks about work and when He speaks about service, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Serve, that's avodah, and worship, like we understand worship. They're all the same word. And I think it's. So yeah, there is a tension, and I do have moments where I question significance, but that's because I will. But I think I'm realizing that actually, if we can't do it in those small spaces, what makes us think that we will do it in
other places?
Other places.
So just to get to the other places,
yes.
And I know that's been a wrestle. I think it has been a wrestle for you. And for Hein as well, as you've always had this thing, Lord, are you sending us to another country? You've had the nations on your heart, and yet He's not released that opportunity. He hasn't opened the door for you to do that. And we all recognize that, I think, that at the time just hasn't been right. And we don't want to force open something that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But how do you deal with that? How do you get peace from the Lord? That, you know, you've got this desire to go, but He's using you here in Jeffreys Bay.
It's a good question, and honestly, like, I've wept many times actually in this very room, asking the Lord, and questioning actually if some of the encounters that I've had with Him, like when I was 17 and I felt Him say, like, go, I have questioned whether those were His words or whether they were just my made up ideas. And I guess we'll only know in time, you know, like we have to give it.
Yeah.
So, but I think very practically it's been a conscious, there have been times of real wrestle of like striving and going, oh, can we go, should we go? And actually, and part of it being an escape as well, I just want to say, from being here, do you know, like, because there is something about that being forward thinking and like almost this, my mission in life is this, and focusing on that at the expense of being present. But I think that has been my constant challenge from the Lord, is being present where He has me. And actually encouraged from Scripture and acknowledging that that is exactly how Paul lived. He was really present. In fact, present enough to establish groups of people that would outlast him, you know, like, and then only moving as the Spirit led him. So he rooted deeply actually everywhere that he was. And I think that just his nature and studying his nature in Scripture made me realize, oh, actually, I need to be here, you know, and there's something that the Lord wants to deposit in me. But very practically, so 4 things, I've thought of them, 4 things that help us keep our peace and keep us present but still engaged with God's heart for the nations is, well, number 1, that we keep praying. So we keep praying for the nations and keep connecting in a space of prayer for the nations, for different people groups. Number 2 is to keep going, actually. So every opportunity that we have, even just to do a short term, like last year we had the opportunity to go to Israel, and that was such a gift actually for us as a family to be able to go with Evelyn and to just pray in that space, and just for that to just be kept alive in us. And then the third thing is to keep relational connection with those that are in the nations. And so practically how we do that is we're engaged with ALBS in Jordan, we're core team leaders, but and also with Alsabi Panama. So it's just relational connection with people who are living in the nations, and others as well, like Jules and Hannes, and and then the other is to actually keep giving, so to the nations, in the sense of like, I think the Lord constantly challenges me that where our treasure is, there our heart is also. So there's something about financially, I want to call it investing, in that space of where we would like to be, but actually supporting those that are already there. So I think those are very 4 practical ways that we remain engaged, but we're challenged to still be here, and reminded that actually the nations are coming to us. And the Lord really blessed us with that, and only in hindsight do we see it, like that we have the nations coming to us, and to not take that for granted and to engage in it. And that's a relational engagement. Like the Dutch person is sitting in front of me, this is a nation, you know, like